Coming up on River City Presents, we're going to be talking about Paducah's nonprofit theater, Maiden Alley Cinema, with Executive Director Rebecca Madding. Welcome to River City Presents. I'm Daniel Hurt. While most communities have big box movie theaters, Paducah is lucky enough to have its own nonprofit independent theater. And joining me to talk about that on the show today and the challenges they face is Executive Director Rebecca Madding. Hey. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We've been talking about having you on for a little while, and I'm glad we're finally getting around to doing it. I know you're expecting, so thank you for your patience and everything. But first, sort of, for those that may not know in the community, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got to Maiden Alley.
Yeah, so my journey to Western Kentucky started back in 2011. I'm originally from Aberdeen, Ohio. It's just a tiny southern Ohio town right across the river from Maysville, Kentucky, which is the home of the Clooneys, for those who may be familiar. I came down here in 2011 to go to Murray State University. I originally went to Murray for a zoology degree, and
really, you're gonna be a vet?
Yeah, I wanted to go into zoology, conservation, veterinarian things, and I found out I'm really bad at chemistry.
Same here. So
not the best at cellular biology either. But thankfully, I grew up very arts-minded. I had that opportunity. I was going to Cincinnati all the time as a child, so I loved art and movies and pop culture, and was a voracious reader. So I made the switch to English literature, and got a degree in English and in professional writing, and all the while, I met a boy, as you do in college, and that boy was from Western Kentucky, and he was already someone who was an avid fan of Maiden Alley Cinema. He was he was an independent filmmaker himself, and was participating in the 48-Hour Film Project, which is an international film project that Maiden Alley Cinema has hosted for the past 13 years now. And so I just tagged along with him, and in tagging along with him to Maiden Alley as a patron, I fell in love with Paducah, I fell in love with Maiden Alley, I became a volunteer, and then I became a board member in 2017.
So you sort of learned all the different parts of...
Yeah, I kind of climbed the ladder of, like, you know, everybody in the nonprofit world, you know, you want to turn your patrons into donors and volunteers, and then those volunteers can become staff members. And, you know, I really did. I climbed that ladder. And so, yeah, as a board member, I learned about Maiden Alley. I was helping out with fundraising events like Oktoberfest and our River's Edge International Film Festival. I was volunteering in the box office, serving, making popcorn and things like that. And then when Landy Bryant, the previous executive director, when she resigned, we went 3 months without an executive director. And so I kind of just helped out with my board chair and the board vice chair, just kind of helping run the cinema for 3 months. So I was helping make the schedule, I was helping with grant writing. So I kind of already got entrenched into Maiden Alley, and through my time in Maiden Alley, it really inspired me to pursue my master's degree, which is in PR and communications. Also
fits right perfectly in there, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I use a lot of, you know, social media, marketing, advertising, professional writing, PR, you know, strategies. I use a lot of that in my daily work, and so yeah, when they opened up for applications, I applied, and I got the job. They handed me the keys at 27 years old, and then the pandemic started. Well,
it was a seamless transition for you then, but still, it had to be interesting straight out of college and at 27, running an apparatus as much a staple as it is to Paducah, right? So what was that like right out front?
It's pretty scary, because I mean, not only was I was replacing someone who had been there for over a decade, which is huge shoes to fill, and I'm so thankful for my time as a volunteer and board member there. I started volunteering pretty regularly in 2014, and I really don't know how well I would have done if I wasn't already so ingrained in the culture and in the operations of Maiden Alley before even getting my executive director position. But yeah, at 27 years old in a leadership position like that, I mean, I'm 30 now, but you know, I'm still one of the youngest nonprofit directors here in town. All of us arts directors get together quarterly and kind of talk about what we're doing and what we can do to help each other and things like that. And you just see other directors, I mean, like Michael Cochran, who's been there for decades. and people like Mary Katz at the Carson Center and stuff. And these are just these people I look up to and really try to learn from as much as possible. I ask so many questions and ask for so much guidance because I've only been there for 3 years.
But I
I'm
think
still very young.
I think it says a lot, though, that at 27 that you had that position. I mean, that's a testament to your own talent as well.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of imposter syndrome that goes there, but yeah, you have to really reflect and be like, wow, I'm pretty talented.
Look, I can I do this.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, and also, like you say, you stepped into that role right at the beginning of the pandemic too.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that? I mean, obviously, you have to get people in seats in theaters, and when you can't do that, it's complicated, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was very scary. I started my job on March 2nd of 2020.
Oh, and shutdown was March 15th.
Yes. By March 12th, we had to shut our doors. And I just remember myself and John Holt, who's been the operations director, tech director, programmer of Maiden Alley for, gosh, like 17, 18 years now. I think he comes with the building, so I always tell people. There's no Maiden Alley without John. But, I just remember us standing in the alley just singing like, oh my gosh, we can't be closed for 2 weeks. We can't be closed for 2 weeks. And then the 2 weeks turned into 3 months.
Yeah.
And thankfully, because of things, like donations, because of course we're a nonprofit, so we solicited donations. We took advantage of the Paycheck Protection Plan, that the SBA came out with. And then in June, we were allowed to reopen. Movie theaters could reopen alongside restaurants. And so we were like, all right, let's reopen, let's get this thing going.
And you had very positive feedback too from that.
Yeah, we really care about our community, and that's the best thing about Maiden Alley is that when you have a comment or a concern, it's heard by me. Immediately, whether you do it through my staff member or to me directly. And so, you get information directly from the horse's mouth. And so we really value, what the people need and what they want. And so we put out a survey saying, like, what, do you want to come back? What do you want to see? How would you feel the most comfortable at Maiden Alley Cinema? And so after that survey, we had such positive feedback that people, wanted to come back to the movies.
And whenever I go to the theater, one of the things I told you in the pre-interview is like, it's kind of like the show Cheers. You know everybody. I see you and other folks that work there. You're always there taking questions or on site to assist. But when I go in there, I see a lot of familiar faces, and that's something that I think is really great about Maiden Alley. How do you feel about that environment?
Oh, I love it. I love that, just in the past few years of just working in the box office, I get to see so many familiar faces. There's certain people that I'm like, all right, there's Large Root Beer Man, or that person doesn't like ice, and things like that. Or, I'll see someone and I know what kind of movies they like, so I'll make sure and tell them, like, hey, this is coming next week, or are you excited for this, or whatever. Because it is like Cheers. It's so intimate. I love that about Paducah in general. I'm from a town of less than 1,000 people, and so yes, Paducah is a city, and it's a big city, but it's still like, it's the place where you can go into an establishment and everybody does know your name.
Yeah.
And I love that I can go to a coffee shop and high five all my friends, and then I can't even sit there and get work done because everybody's talking to me.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's so much fun. And I love that about Maiden Alley too. You get so caught up, talking to the patrons. My favorite thing about Maiden Alley is, especially if I close the theater, if I'm doing the closing shift, because I do everything. I have done everything from our QuickBooks and our accounting to I scrub our floors. And so if I'm closing and after I'm sweeping up the theater, I come out and there are people in the hallway talking, and they're just talking to strangers, talking to their friends, just about how, what their thoughts about the movie was and how it impacted them and things. And like that communal experience is so much fun.
It has so much meaning, right?
Yeah. And I've had people, tell me on their way out, thank you for playing this movie. Thank you for bringing it to Paducah. We haven't seen it in years, or, we're about to travel to go see it, and things like that. And that's what makes me really happy about, my job in Paducah.
And in the spirit of that, too, how Maiden Alley came to be is sort of a community-oriented thing, right? Tell us a little bit about how its origins.
In 1991, a group of movie-minded people and arts-minded people would get together once a month, and they called themselves the Paducah Film Society. And they got together at the Market House Black Box Theater, and they had their own projection equipment, and they would play movies. And they kind of garnered their own attendance, and really kind of gained some traction of like, hey, we really need a movie theater down here.
Yeah.
And so after doing, that for 10 years, in 2001, Maiden Alley Cinema was born. And
what a great spot downtown too, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about the building. You told me before it was it's sort of a collective community building too, right?
Yes, we are a shared space. If you've been inside Maiden Alley Cinema and you go down the hallway to go into our cinema, if you look to the left, there's the River Discovery Center. Back then, in the early 2000s, it was called the River Heritage Museum. But yeah, back then they needed a home. We needed a home, and then to the back of our building is the Seamen's Church Maritime Institute.
Sure, yeah.
And so our building is actually owned by the city, who very graciously leases it to us. And it's just the home of these three entities. We all kind of share the space and work together. And it's been our home for 22 years.
It's amazing. So not only is it a great staple in the community, it's also community driven, and it's a shared space too, which I think is all the better. But how would you say that Maiden Alley compares to like the big box theater? What would you say some differences are between you all? You can offer different types of movies that they don't necessarily offer, right?
Absolutely. So our mission at Maiden Alley Cinema is to promote film as an art form and to create cross-cultural awareness and provide entertainment. We do specialize in independent foreign and documentary film. However, we're pretty privy to playing those classic series, children's series, and things like that. So what I always like to tell people our biggest differences is price. We are much more affordable than those big box theaters, of course. But also, we have the luxury of planning our programming around our community. We get to pick whether or not we play a certain film, and we get a lot of freedom. Because of our designation as an art house, there's a lot of repertory programming that we can do that like a Cinemark or something can't do.
Not just something brand new out the gate.
Yeah,
but
we don't have to play first-run films all the time. Of course, that's our priority, to get as many first-run films as we can.
What's competition like that like with like Cinemark? I wasn't it The Whale or something you all showed that did remarkably well at Maiden Alley and not at Cinemark, right?
Yeah, so back before the pandemic, we really would know, okay, these certain movies are playing at Cinemark, they're probably not going to get it, and we'll play it, in general. Like those A24 films, Neon, Orion, those are your more independent, more art house studios films, and we knew we would get it. And if Cinemark did get that film, they might have it for a week and then we'll get it, and we normally tell our patrons that, and they'll usually wait and come see it at Maiden Alley. And that has been happening more and more. We're kind of dipping into each other's barrels a little bit just because of the lack of content. We've rebounded since the pandemic, but the output of movies still isn't as high as it used to be. Back this winter, the Cinemark here in Paducah played The Whale, featuring Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
Won Best Actor. They had it for a full week before we did. And of course, they had it for a full week. They have multiple showtimes, throughout the day. And then we got it, and we only had 4 showtimes. And we made more money in 4 days and a week late than Cinemark did.
Wow.
And that's a huge testament to our supporters and to our patrons, and how much they prefer to go to Maiden Alley.
It's like with COVID, you said that they all poured in with support, so why wouldn't they come and see you all if they could see the same movie somewhere else, right? But you said that booking films is kind of complicated with your single screen setup and everything there, right? So tell me a little bit about how that works.
So back before the pandemic happened, we were able to book films and pretty much know at least our lineup 2 months at a time. Now there's times that I don't know what I'm playing next week.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That is complicated.
It's very complicated, especially for marketing purposes. And a big part of that is just because of the way that the industry is now. Like I just said, the output of movies isn't as large as it used to be.
Is it streaming?
It's not as much streaming. during the thick of lockdown, quarantine, you know, when people really weren't coming back full force, we weren't 100%. Streaming kind of was our enemy, so to speak. But now streaming really isn't a big deal. Now we're actually fighting our own industry. We're fighting the studios themselves and the distributors themselves, because, you know, when you see a commercial for a film and it says in theaters everywhere, that is a lie.
Okay.
It is in theaters some places, and it will get to you soon.
Bigger cities like New York or Los Angeles or wherever.
Exactly. So a lot of these films, because what they do is called a tentpole model. And so what the movie studios now want are like these really large, just blockbuster weekends. They want like huge opening weekend numbers, and they just kind of just want that big opening weekend. And so to sustain that, they do what they call like a slow rollout. So it'll be in LA and New York first, and then it'll trickle down into larger cities. Maybe they'll go from, you know, less than 100 theaters to maybe 500 theaters, and then they'll go to 2,000 theaters, and then so on and so forth. So even though there's a movie that's out, we might not get it here in Paducah, Kentucky until a month later. And then because of that, you know, back in March, I knew that there was a certain movie that technically came out at the beginning of March, but in Paducah we weren't getting it until the end. And so my booking agent says, hey, you guys have 3 weekends to fill and you have no new movies now. So, you know, you need to get creative. And so that's why we're playing so much more repertory films now, and that's because we have to be kind of creative, and we still need to book movies, and we still need to have content on the weekends.
And that sort of allows you the opportunity to show movies that are like cult classics, like the Blues Brothers, or something that you know is going to get a crowd, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we always try to have intention behind the repertory screenings that we're doing. Back in April, we did April Fools, and so we had The Jerk and Dumb and Dumber.
All great movies.
This weekend we're playing Mrs. Doubtfire because it's a beloved family classic, and it played 30 years ago. So, I mean, that's when I was born, before you were born. And
around the same time.
And so a lot of people want to bring their families to that. And another obstacle that I forgot to talk about is just the fact that with these new movies, we have to have certain commitments to these movies. So for a new movie, I have to commit to 2 weeks minimum. I have to show this movie for 2 weeks. And sometimes it's not even 2 weeks. Sometimes they're saying, you're going to play this movie until we tell you you can drop it.
Doesn't that feel like you're being held a little hostage by the...
Just a little bit, yeah, because not only can I not say when it'll end and what's coming up next, I also can't play anything in tandem. I can't say like, all right, here's the new movie, that's at 7 p.m., but, you know, we'll have an afternoon matinee of this film. I can't do that. They won't let you. So I have to play the same film for 2 weeks, maybe even longer, but I'm beholden to that contract, you know, with the distributor. And you don't want to not play new films, obviously. I mean, that's what we're here for.
But you can't even add those other films, the repertoire films, in there.
Sometimes, every now and then, they will let you play something with it, but you're going to have to play it like 2 or 3 weeks after it comes out. So that's after it's new, after the buzz is gone, and maybe people have gone to go see it at Cinemark, or they might travel down even to the Belcourt, because, you know, you want to see a movie. You have to see it on your own time as well. And so sometimes you're just kind of, you're forced between, all right, do we want to try to play this new film and hope everybody comes and sees it, and then they'll be understanding when you kind of throw something in right after it?
Yeah.
Or do we skip it because we're not sure if it's going to sustain 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and maybe we can put in some smaller events in between, and then of course you have to be fiscally responsible because you can't bleed for 3 weeks.
Well, you can't guarantee the audience is going to show up.
Absolutely.
So what I mean, I was just thinking about the opportunity of showing those movies, and it's like one of my favorite movies, Casablanca, and it's like, while I like that movie, I don't know if it would fill your theater. So what decision-making process goes into showing or deciding what movies is to be shown as part of the repertoire collection?
So as far as repertory goes, one of the first things, so our movies, I will just go ahead and say, our programming is done by myself, by John Holt, like I said, who has been there for 17 years. And then we also have a booking agent. His name is Toby. He's a film programmer programmer of about 30 plus years. He has so much knowledge in the industry. He works for a very renowned art house himself. So it's a collaboration of like, we have what we call summits, and we all get together on a three-way phone call, and we're like, all right, let's plan this month.
What's it gonna be?
What's gonna do? Yeah. But however, he's in Nashville and we're in Paducah, and our demographics are totally different.
Yeah.
And so we really look back at what has an anniversary, because those are always fun.
Or like a holiday.
Yeah, or then, like, for example, Mrs. Doubtfire, 30th anniversary. So we try to look at things that have anniversaries that are fun, and then we look at things like what has done well in the past. Here in Paducah, during Christmas time, you will never catch us not playing Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, I've been to see it 2 or 3 times, yeah.
This year, we're probably going to add more show times. Last year, we had 4 show times, 4 or 5, and we sold out. And we only have 114 seats, and we were putting extra chairs, like from our lobby, in the cinema to try to accommodate people. I had people sitting on other people's laps, trying to watch Christmas Vacation. And so we always look at what's well-loved, what's relevant, is there a special event going on?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, we're going to have Pride in June. It's Pride Month, obviously, right now in June, but then Juneteenth is coming up in a couple weeks. So if we have, the space and time, do we have anything relevant that we could play for that? We've done something silly and fun in which Bruce Willis retired, and we're like, let's have a Bruce Willis weekend.
Well,
That'll be a blast.
You also did, you've told me that you did something more targeted toward female viewers too, right? You showed Mean Girls and...
Yeah. So we have something called Film Brew. Film Brew is a series in which breweries sponsor a monthly film. It's mostly like classic films and things like that. And since I've kind of become an addition to the Maiden Alley team and staff, I've kind of inserted some, and I'm a millennial, where my coworkers are Gen X, so I have a little bit different perspective, not only as a female, but also, as a younger person. And so last October, I kind of snuck in Practical Magic.
Sandra Bullock,
Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Stevie Nicks soundtrack, how can you go wrong? And then that November we also had Mean Girls, and it was just so much fun to cater to a different demographic.
And that filled up, didn't it?
Oh, yes it did. Yeah, we were slammed, and it was a really fun time. And it just it just helps us, reach new people, get new people into the cinema to see who we are. We have so many people that have lived in Paducah their entire lives, and they're like, you know what, this is our first time here. I haven't been here since I was a kid on a field trip or something like that. And so we try to really cater to multiple demographics and to get people in that maybe have never been there before, just because of what we offer, and like I said, our price points and things like that. We're so much more friendly.
Well, let me also ask you about some other things that you've got going on. So you talked about Film Brew, and it's helped sponsored by local breweries and across the state, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, even out of state, like Schlafly in Missouri.
Oh, that's amazing. And then also you have a kids oriented program as well, right? Talk about that.
Yeah. So that kicks off in June, actually, next weekend, and it is a classic kids series. It's once a month. Kids get a free popcorn. It's only a $7 ticket price. They're at 1 p.m., so that's a little bit more kid-friendly. And it's just kids' movies. So you've got Finding Nemo, Bug's Life, School of Rock.
It's hard to believe that movie came out.
I know.
2004 when we were both in elementary school.
From my childhood,
yeah, mine
and
too.
Look at me, I'm about to have my own. And it's so crazy. But yeah, and that's what we try to do, because we really want to look at, like, all right, what did the current generation that has children, like, what were the movies they loved? And what would they want to bring their kids to? Because a lot of these movies they've never been able to see in the theater like they're supposed to be seen.
Yeah,
they're streaming,
exactly.
They're streaming on Disney Plus or Netflix.
Man, my parents and my family hate me because of Toy Story, probably. Like, that's one that they could probably recite every word to the number of times that I watched that as a kid growing up. But I think we all probably had that.
Oh, for sure, everybody had their movies.
Well, what about the River's Edge Film Festival? That's something that you all have been doing for a while now, right?
Yeah, almost 2 decades. So we are the home of the longest running film festival in Kentucky, and it is the River's Edge International Film Festival. So we get films from all over the world. We have short films, and feature-length films. The festival is normally every November. However, we are actually moving it to spring this coming year. So be on the lookout for our new schedule for 2024. And we get probably over 100, 200 entries. And we have a committee. It's not just myself. It's not like the movie programming, in which is me and John, figuring things out. We have a committee of John and myself, of course, as the festival directors. But we also have a committee of Maiden Alley board members, of community members, and we're all just watching, these independent films
from all over the world, right?
All over the world, from right here in Paducah to, Tunis and Indonesia and things, and we're watching these films, and we gotta somehow whittle them down to probably 30 films.
A practically viewable number.
Yes.
And it's because of the UNESCO nature of Paducah too, right?
Absolutely.
That you have these connections to different parts of the world.
Yeah, and we're really trying to, this is the 10th year for our UNESCO designation in Paducah, and so a lot of the arts entities are trying to do something special. And so something that I mentioned earlier about my husband being a part of the 48-hour film project, that is a project that's been happening at Maiden Alley for 12, 13 years now. And it is an international timed movie competition. It's in 130 countries. And the filmmakers, and when I say filmmakers, you don't have to own a camera. We've had teams with an iPad do this, and
oh wow,
they come in on Friday night. They get a genre, just a random drawn out of the hat genre, and then the 48-hour team provides a character, a prop, and a line of dialogue that has to be within their film, and then they go off.
How long can it be?
It's anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes. And then they go off and they have to make a film and turn it in by Sunday night.
And these can be teenagers or?
It could be teenagers, it could be children, it could be anybody. It could be yourself with your cell phone. You just have to make this movie with those required elements, and then we show them, at Maiden Alley. And so this year, I've been in contact with the 48-hour headquarters because, like I said, it's in 130 countries. Some of them are UNESCO creative cities, and so we have found 11 between creative cities in the U.S. and beyond. And so in November, we are looking to show kind of like a best of
like
those
a
creative
greatest
cities.
hits compilation almost.
Yeah, just to kind of show what's happening everywhere else in the world.
And I was just thinking, man, if you're a teenager getting the opportunity to do that and have your work shown, you're going to have a generation of filmmakers coming up, and
hopefully
that sort of helps bring that about.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is my husband, probably back in 2014, so almost 10 years ago, he had a kid come to his set for the 48, and he shadowed and got to be an extra. And now he's doing his own team, and he and a couple of the guys on his team are now, filmmakers. One of them's in actual film school down in Georgia now.
See, it's not just it's an international impact, but it's also like you can witness the progress made, or the people really taking it and running with it.
Absolutely.
One of the things I wanted to ask about too is you can actually rent the space for private events, because my friend Alan, who we know, had a birthday party one year and we watched the Blues Brothers because it was his favorite movie. Our friend Kevin was like, "Give me $20," and you're like, "Okay," and ultimately it was to help pay back the money, but for renting that space. So you can do that, right?
Yeah. We've hosted. I've been there for a 3-year-old's birthday party. We've had corporate Christmas parties. We have had corporate presentations, because nothing makes a slideshow look great than on a big screen,
Yeah.
And so we have had all kinds of different rentals. And, for this, we have 114 seats. We can provide refreshments. We do allow catering if you want to do something like that. But, it's only $400 if you're an organization or a person, or $350 if you are a school, church, or another nonprofit organization, which last week I just had 120 tiny children on a field trip as a reward just this past week.
Oh, for like attendance or something like we had back in the day.
It was a total blast. They had so much fun being able to come and see the movies.
Well, I think it's amazing that not only do you all show independent films and the greatest hits and new movies, but you also allow space for folks in the community to involve themselves also there. It really is the community space that you say it is out front.
Yeah, and we do dozens of partnerships. So I've had a bunch of other nonprofits such as Live Well, Merriman House, Lotus. We do fundraisers for the McGangsters, and I've had kitties, you know, being adopted outside the cinema, and we're raising funds, you know, because a part of our mission is to help you with your mission and what you want to do. And so anytime that we can use our mission of film to help further somebody else's mission, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
And I want to talk about something else here at the end, last few minutes, is that you have an annual fundraiser, Oktoberfest, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that. We'll make sure we get that in there for folks watching.
Oktoberfest is held every October. This year it is October 21st. It is at Dry Ground Brewing from 1 to 6 p.m. It's our tentpole largest fundraiser. You know, like I said, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Only 45% of our income comes from actual box office ticket sales and concessions. Everything else is fundraised, it's donated, and it's given to us by grants. And so it's really important to have something like Oktoberfest. So Oktoberfest just celebrates, you know, of course, beer, as we all know. So we have local breweries. It's at Dry Ground, but it also includes breweries such as Dam Brew House, Paducah Beer Works, Mile Wide, Ivan Barrel. We've had Against the Grain in the past, Blue Stallion. We all have all these Kentucky breweries. We have local bands play, and you know, it's child friendly. You do not have to be 21 to attend. We've got apple cider for the kids. I think this year we're about to have some mini golf, and so it's just kind of a fun fall event for everybody to come out and enjoy.
I always love going. It's a staple of my fall event schedule. It's like going to those, and I'm proud to be a patron of your all's too. But here at the end, I want to know in the future. You know, you're always forward thinking. So what is the challenges you see ahead?
So I think really for single screen movie theaters like ourselves, the biggest challenge is get a second screen. Unless there is a big difference in the distribution industry, in which, you know, they'll change those terms and we're not playing movies for 3 weeks in a row and things like that, because they're kind of treating us like a multiplex rather than just a single screen that you know, can't sustain one movie for 3 weeks. And so you know, what really would help is either we do a shift in our programming in which those first run movies kind of fall back, and repertory and special events are at the forefront, where it used to be opposite. One used to supplement the other, though, or you know, try to find a way to get a second screen to be able to show more content, because that's really what we need to be able to do, is to show more content. And right now, you know, we're a little bit hobbled by our own industry.
No, yeah, I mean, I get it, the limitations that come with that. It'd be good to be able to expand or have something like that moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you for being here.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely, and I have no doubt I'll see you around or at the movie theater itself.
Absolutely, so. Yeah, we'll be there.
Well, thanks for being here. That was Rebecca Madding, Executive Director of Maiden Alley Cinemas. Hope you watch the show. Enjoy it next time.